exchange. So I will start with Akshay Yadav. We have a few areas that we would want to cover. I mean, we obviously want to look at corn as a commodity and how its supply chain has emerged. It has gone through. I mean, I've seen seasons of very low corn production and high corn prices to very high corn production and very low prices. Government interventions. Sometimes I've seen governments in Karnataka struggling to pay the farmers. I mean, today we are talking about whatever 1,200, 1,300 rupees a quintal for corn prices in certain parts of the country. There were years when I've seen it at 900 rupees, maybe 5, 6 years ago, and we've also seen it at very high prices. I mean, way back just not very long ago in December, we were seeing prices about 2,500 rupees. So such volatility. Largely, corn is an ingredient and therefore has a significant impact on the production of various products, both industrial and food. And therefore, it'll be interesting to see how a company like Dreyfus deals with this price volatility, the role that you see for yourself as a commodity trading company, and how your actions can help the farmers and the commodity really to find its real value and sustain it despite different volatile conditions. We will also be talking about how things have been affected by COVID. Corn is a crop which actually can claim to have been affected by COVID. And while I have views on it, but I would want to hear it from you guys as you are the real industry players for it. And also what measures need to be taken to ensure that corn supply chain, which India has actually built, at least from a production side, very strongly. How do we sustain it? How do we keep the farmers interested in corn? Not just in certain areas where corn has emerged as a leading crop, where there were no significant competing crops, but there is also a keen interest by the government to take corn to areas, specifically talking about Haryana and Punjab, where they want to get farmers to switch from paddy cultivation to corn as one of the options for the farmers. And but if the price volatility and the lack of confidence in resilient supply chain of corn continue, that will obviously be a tough ask for the farmers to be switching. So these are the range of topics, and each of you have a role to play in all these questions. And I would let you choose what you want to talk about. But as towards the end, we would want to have certain answers to the statements or the questions I've just raised. So over to you, Akshay. Please bring your views forward. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Siraj sir, for those kind words and setting the tone. Um, I'll just briefly share a small presentation. Let me know if you guys can.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay, perfect. So I think corn, the various the supply chain disruptions and COVID, there are a lot of questions that need to be answered. A lot of areas that people might be interested in. I mean, to go stepwise, I think I start with how the global corn supplies look. As Roli mentioned, there is no dearth of corn actually globally. If you say corn, wheat, or any other food grain, soybeans. I mean, there has been a lot of hue and cry about USDA reports. Carry out being 22 million tons lower versus the last month report. There was a jump in international prices. People got excited, but bottom line, we still have year-on-year higher carry out stocks globally. And if you look at US, which is a big exporter, one of the biggest exporters, you see stocks are still significantly higher year on year. So from a supply perspective, on a global scale, there is no issue in terms of the corn availability.
Mr. Yadav, one
Yeah.
second. I think some other windows are open. We can see the whole slide. If you can close other windows and just open the presentation, please.
Uh,
It shows a gray box. So if any other window is open, if you can minimize or close it.
I have this Webex one. Is it better now?
Oh. For others, Rituja, can you see the whole slide?
No, I can see a gray box across half of the slide.
Okay, hang on.
Just try sharing once again, yeah.
Is it better now?
No, sir, there's still the box.
The same issue.
Okay. Uh, if you don't mind, I
You
can
have to,
mail it across.
yeah, you have to, I think you have to, shift the video to a corner, I think it will work.
Maybe.
Does it work now?
No, not really.
I just moved to like a smaller version. Is it better now? I can maximize the size if that helps. Or it's the same problem.
No, the same because
Okay. Okay.
Maybe the participant panel is open, sir, on your screen.
Yes,
Sir, if you could close the participant panel.
I have closed that. I have closed almost everything. Let me mail it across to you. I think
sure, you can send it to me. I'll try and open it.
yeah, I'll send it across. Apologies. Technology can be an hindrance as well. One last time if that works. Okay. You can see the grayscale as well. I don't know why this time around.
So you can continue as soon as I get it. I'll open it and
Okay.
then.
Perfect. Perfect. Apologies for the projection inconvenience. Globally, like Roly said, there is abundant supply, nothing to be too excited about. Or let's say, in case the demand really turns up or picks up after COVID, there won't be a major, demand destruction. The prices are fairly reasonable. Once demand picks up, we have the supply and we have the assets to actually cater to that demand globally. Looking at the current situation in India, in terms of segment, I think the biggest contributor for corn demand domestically in India is the feed market, the feed-based consumption. And there has been a big setback for this industry, not just because of the lockdown, but much before. In during the months of February, there was rumor that meat eating leads to coronavirus, and a lot of panelists, Siraj sir himself has commented several times uh, on this matter, how the low product demand and the sudden price crashed created a lot of problem for the feed manufacturers. So there has been a big reduction in demand, 10 to 15% year on year, which is quite significant. Um, just talking about, and this is the sector I would be focusing on mostly in terms of demand and how COVID has impacted this biggest sector in India. In terms of policy, the government increased the MSP of corn by 5% for last marketing, for the current marketing campaign. And just to give a reference, currently the support price or the market price are trading 30 to 35% below the support price in Bihar. In the long term, how do we want to approach it? We want to set realistic targets for the farmer. I mean, that is something which we possibly will explore, because at the end of the day, for a stable product demand growth, we need the supply to be constant, and the farmer has a big role to play. So we have to keep the farmers interested to keep growing corn year after year, so that our feed and our starch and our other corn-based industries can really focus on their demand side. Um, Looking at the depressed prices, even though the prices are down versus the MSP and almost 50% off from the highs, globally, Indian prices have been outpriced for quite a while now. However, now we are getting into that export zone to Bangladesh and Nepal, where we get a natural logistics advantage because of the landlocked nature and those land borders. So a little bit of surplus that we have, and that's actually a relief, so that the prices don't go below a big threshold for Bihar or any other state in India. So this export demand is really what kind of supports a further or a major price drop for corn in the coming season. In terms of the outlook, so far it looks pretty nice. The weather has been very favorable. We think a stable crop, keeping the price aspect aside. If you have sufficient supply, it actually helps the industry to be able to garner and increase the demand, which in long term will bring the renovation to the farmer. So both of these things go hand in hand. And for that aspect, I think one of the points or a recommendation or a suggestion would be to have an open import policy at a fixed import duty. It could be 15, it could be 20, it could be 30, whatever basically you want versus your MSP or the prices, so as to not have a very abnormal price hike like we saw last year. Such price hikes tend to really dampen the demand. We had demand destruction last year because at some stage we were not able to supply corn to the starch or maybe to the poultry industry. By the time we had the imports coming in, you have these sudden price moves, which are really not good for demand in the long run. So if you have a stable supply chain, it helps the industry to focus more on the domestic demand, which in the long run is going to benefit not just the farmer, but the entire country. On that note, if you could go to the next slide, Rolly. So I'll start with the weather because the upcoming summer crops are being sown. We had a very decent start to the monsoon. We were up 18% in June, and eventually we are up almost 10% versus normal. The monsoon has started significantly early year on year, which means that we should be seeing crops such as cotton, corn, soybeans, groundnut coming much earlier versus last year. Furthermore, it seems that monsoon is not just going to be normal. There are chances of a weak La Nina, which tends to be supportive of rains in India. And corn crop is so susceptible to, especially the Kharif corn, is so susceptible to rains. We have years of very good production, and we have certain years where the production is really just gone back because of the drought. So so far things look good on that front, which is good for the rural economy, which is good for our supply chain. There is no shortage or let's say supply chain disruptions that should be seen on account of let's say shortage of raw material so far from the looks of it. Ms. Rory, if you could go ahead. Yeah, just briefly touching on the acreage, we've almost flattened out, which is also a concern if we want to keep increasing our demand. Because if that is the case, we need to find a way wherein if, let's say, the land is so far limited, we would be competing corn with cotton, soybeans, groundnut. So there has to be some way to either bring more acreage. Over the years, we have added a little bit of acreage to corn. Could be because of price hikes. Typically, import years are followed by good acreage in the preceding years, which explains the big jump in 16, 17. But the industry also has a big role to play. As the starch capacity in India started adding up, we've seen the area or the area under corn cultivation slowly creeping higher for India, and it's a positive sign. But there is only so much we can do with the area. So we need to find a solution in terms of yield, which I would be covering towards the end. Rolly, next slide, please. So this is the upcoming summer corn crop. The acreage is almost 76% versus last year final numbers. And like most crops, the area as on date is significantly higher. We've had a reverse migration, which has really helped along with the timely monsoons. So we should expect the Kharif corn crop in time, all going well. Now, this is a price chart for Bihar corn. This is the NCD export polling. So if we see we've transitioned from an year where we had the highest corn prices ever to almost the lowest corn prices ever, all in a matter of 2 months. Such disruptions in price, and this is partly similar to what happened last year as well. Last year we jumped from 17, 18 to straight away 2400. These price jumps, volatilities, correction, spikes, they don't, they should be well within a reason. Beyond a certain amount of price hike, the demand starts getting affected. And which is why I think the outlook that we have, or probably I see as for the corn, Ms. Roli, if you go to the next slide. So this is a comparison of various prices on what we think is the outlook for this year and how we see the prices. So currently, as I mentioned, the corn prices in Bihar are probably 1235. Tamil Nadu corn is 1560. You might think there is a play, but the Black Sea corn, which can be imported against the TRQ at a 15% duty, lands at 17.5. This 17.5 is much lower than probably a 22 rupees corn that has been trading, for quite some while last year, because these quotas were not allocated. So what this essentially does is it puts a range to the market. We have on one hand Bangladesh and Nepal paying for Indian corn, which kind of forms a floor. At the same time, in case, let's say, there is any major issue with the crop or anything else, we have some sort of range or a band in terms of those TRQ quantity of 17,500, which gives some sort of comfort to the end industry, so that he can focus on the end user. So in terms of production for the upcoming year, just briefly talking, the read that we have is looking at the fantastic sowing pace. We think year on year, the summer corn area should be 2 to 5% lower to unchanged. Yields should be supportive given the monsoons we are seeing so far. And we expect the harvest season to start early. Production, again, is a function of how the weather pans out in July, Sep. So overall, it seems we are looking at an unchanged, we could be looking at an unchanged production for the summer corn. In terms of consumption, we think we degrew by almost 10%, all the sectors put together. And if this COVID situation doesn't increase, doesn't improve, we might see, some further downside. For next year, we think it will be a pent-up demand, and people going back to, as things ease off. We see a sharp recovery of 10-15%, but it would still be lower than the record consumption we possibly saw in 17 and 18, because the demand that has been disrupted, it will gradually take those people to come back to start feeling safe. But overall, it seems that the Indian mills, be it the feed mills or the starch mills, they would be in a much better shape once the product demand start picking up, because corn supply seems to be decent at the moment. Overall, in terms of price outlook, we think both, the price there is an ample global supply. We can see, states who are keeping stocks like Telangana and AP to give out tenders. So there's no issue on the supply side. And as Bihar prices fall further, you would have the Bangladeshi export flows coming in, which supports the farmer. So the market is in a safe range for now. And overall, that should be really supportive for boosting the domestic demand. Next slide, please, Rolly. The long-term outlook, I think the first point is more respective to this year. In general, the trade, as trade houses like us, Cargill or others, and let's say the feed mills and other users, they tend to go stock up some cargo at the time of harvest, good prices and everything. That mindset might have to change slightly this year, because the farmer selling pattern is a lot different than what it normally is. At the same time, the price seems to be driven by demand more than just the supply. So possibly this approach might need to be taken a little bit cautiously, not overstocking, or unless and until clear demand is seen, should be the norm. In terms of long-term solution, what we think should be the outlook, in terms of the user, there has to be a certainty on the supply so that they can, plan their supply chain and then just focus downstream on the product. With the crop still dependent on monsoon and weather, it's a big challenge. Even the MSP procurements, which were started on the lines of maybe rice or wheat, AP and Telangana have turned futile. Each commodity is different. The scale or the level to which you do is going to be different. So perhaps it's better that these things are left a little bit clearer and open for the industry. Putting up an open import policy, fix an import duty, it gives assurance to the starch or a feed miller to plan his entire year, sell the forwards. If it's a McDonald's or a KFC, if a breeder or a poultry association wants to sell, it's their prerogative. So that comes with the comfort that they would have no issue with the supply chain. So that if there is no domestic crop, for instance, they don't have to wait for the licenses to come in and then go and import corn and lose a month of demand. Uh, the import duty, as I mentioned, can be adjusted so that undue dumping is avoided and Indian farmers' interests are protected. So it gives a safe range to the end user or the industrial user to play with. And perhaps the advanced licenses, they can be just replaced with an industry-wise open quota. Allocate basis the consumption between feed and starch and pre-allocate that so that anyone who has a forward demand and possibly wants to, take some coverage, at least at the back of his mind, he has somewhere he can go and supply that, source that corn. If the policy is open, it can give some long-term solutions. In terms of yields, I think corn and soybeans are pretty much where India is probably a third of where America's produce. The comparison cannot be fair because our corn is non-GMO. What can be, however, seen is in terms of wheat, we are on par to slightly better than some of the major world exporters. The wheat yields in Punjab, Haryana, and let's say even Western UP and Rajasthan are higher than what they are in Black Sea. So there has been a lot of research that has gone into seed in terms of land use and all. And perhaps if there is some interest and some focus put in the seed research, and a very important point is the diversification of area. The summer corn crop is susceptible to weather because it's largely a rain-fed crop. If the Punjab and Haryana farmers start diverting from paddy to corn, it is saving in terms of water, plus it would be an irrigated corn crop. So those vagaries in production might be solved by area diversification, at the same time help overall the water table of the country. So that is something that needs to be which is happening already at the government end, probably pushed through the trade, the industry as well, so that we can have more such areas where we can just diversify from other crops and at the end of the day get a stable production. I think our colleagues from NCDX are here, and as Siraj sir mentioned, because of the price fluctuations we see in corn, a hedging mechanism is very much important. In terms of what we have today, the participation on corn is still not as active as we would like to be. We had a big change this year where we had a single contract, and I think it was long overdue. The whole confusion between a Kharif and a Rabi contract was keeping the market confused. Possibly what the exchange might also look at in order to boost further the farmer, the FPOs, are states apart from the usual contracts, states like MP, which is one of the major surplus producer, and there is no exchange delivery center there. Perhaps those new additions might get a sell side or a buy side person interested. At the end of the day, an exchange is a decent and a reputed clearing platform for forward trading in India. If the volumes pick up, it benefits the farmer to be able to lock his margin. At the same time, it helps the producer to possibly fix some of his forward contracts. And I think something needs to be improved upon to increase the volumes here. Which brings me to the risk factors, or the last slide, just to conclude. So overall, I think the production for the coming corn crop and the revival of demand is what is going to be the market focus for the next 3 months. Area remains to be seen, but it seems it's going to be flat to slightly down. Yield should be better because of better monsoons, water availability. Uh, However, I think a problem which all my colleagues in terms of corn would be aware of has been infestation. We've seen FAW attacks over the past few years, and they keep popping up in certain pockets. This year we have an additional risk of the locust swarms that are the waves of which keep coming on every fortnight or so. So how these impacts, or these insects are contained, is going to impact our corn production, and is a flag to watch out for. In terms of demand, I think overall we are the worst is over, but perhaps my feed colleagues can comment better. The egg prices have recovered almost 50% from their lows, which means the margin for the producer is slightly better. The demand is slightly picking up. There have been a few signs that we've bottomed out on demand. Chicken margins are also starting to recover after going negative in March, April. But there is still a general apprehension, especially in terms of non-veg and COVID. Things are moving, but how fast they change is something that is going to keep impact the prices and the market overall. Overall, how we see the market navigating, I think two things to watch out for: the production flags, and how we see these the demand picking up, especially in absence of outside home or Horeca sector for the next quarter or so. I think overall for Indian corn, I think the industry will have a decent supply compared to last year, and it's a time to focus really on demand growth, and put the demand back to where it was, on an increasing trajectory year on year. I think that's pretty much it from my side.
Thank you, Akshay. I think that was a very good commentary on the market. I mean, any of the participants who've been trading this market should have found this extremely useful and obviously extremely informative. And I'm so glad that you took the time to make this presentation and share this information. I don't know, Rolly, you'll have access to this presentation. It'll be good for participants to, unless it's a Dreyfus classified document, it'll be good for the participants to have that. Thanks again, Akshay. We'll be bringing you back into the conversation. I would have ideally want to go to Amit at the moment, but I will refrain from doing that because a lot of Akshay's conversation were about prices for corn and how they are getting impacted, and just the range in which they have been. And as I said in the beginning, that the need for an exchange or access to a high liquidity exchange is critical to manage this corn palm price volatility. And Arun, it would be good to hear you on what NCBX is doing to promote more participation in the corn trade, because that is going to be good not just for NCBX but for all the participants and the farmers in particular. So over to you, Arun, and then I'll come back to Amit, who obviously is my star speaker here today.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I'll just share my presentation. I hope I'm visible. PPT is visible.
Yes.
Yeah, Rolly. Yeah. So, yeah, thanks, Siras sir, and I think thanks CI. I think this is a very good platform to to interact with the market participant, and especially because a lot has been talk about the way the maize prices has have moved in last couple of years. So it is I think it is very very important, and we are talking about building a resilient supply chain of corn. So when we talk about a resilient supply chain and building a resilient supply chain for corn, I think probably there are two parts. One is ensuring the supply, ensuring the quantity, and I think the second part is ensuring the right price, right? And I'll talk about the second part, which is basically how can we ensure a I won't say a a fair price, but I will say how can I lock my price, right? So I'll talk about that aspect. So I think some part of my presentation has been covered by Akshay already. So I'll just, go through it a bit quickly. So when we talk about maize, I think maize is something which is majorly produced in, across the world, but especially, if you look at top countries, so USA is the top country producing around 350 million to 400 million metric ton of maize per year, followed by China and Brazil. India comes at number 7 or 8, and we produce roughly around 25 to 30 million metric ton. Now, around 80% of the total maize is produced by the top 10 countries. Now, if we move to the total international maize trade, so we can see that usually USA is the largest consumer, which is roughly around 34% of the uh, world production is consumed by USA, followed by China around 24%. And if we look at the exporting countries, so USA and especially all the North American, South American countries, they are the major exporters. So you talk about USA, Brazil, Argentina, Ukraine. So these are the major exporting countries, whereas European Union and Mexico, Japan. So these are the major importing countries. And approximately almost entire maize. If we talk about the export, so the entire maize is exported by the top 10 exporting countries, approximately around 97%. And when we talk about import, it is roughly around 70% is being imported by the top 10 importing countries globally. Moving on to the domestic front, so maize is one commodity where the production is very much distributed across the states. So maize, we say it is one crop which is usually almost available throughout the year, probably except 2 to 3 months through the year. So and it is very well spread. So when we talk about the production across the country, Karnataka produces around 12%. Similarly, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, they all produce roughly around the same amount. And then, Bihar, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, they all produce approximately the same amount, roughly around 9 to 10%. Similarly, with Andhra and probably Rajasthan producing around 5 to 6%. Same with UP. So the production is very much spread. There are around 7 to 8 states which are the major producers. They contribute around 3/4 of the maize, and our production has been roughly around 26, 27, 28 million metric ton in last couple of years. We have seen last year where there has been a major problem with the quality, and because of which we have seen what the prices have been. Akshay has talked about it. I am going to talk about it in my presentation also. Then, if we move to the seasonality, so as I said, maize is one crop which is there almost entire year. So we have both Kharif and Rabi crop, and in Rabi also we see production, starting from Bihar and then gradually moving on to UP and then Punjab, Haryana. So we have seen that throughout the year we have one of the other places where the maize is coming, where the fresh arrivals are coming, except probably 2 3 months. And that is something which is very unique about maize. If we talk about any other except paddy, probably if we talk about wheat, the major production is only in one season. But in case of maize, I mean the both the season, I mean the Kharif and Rabi contribute a decent amount to the total production. And that is the specific reason why what Akshay also talked about, that exchange has two different contracts. We had a Ravi contract and a Kharif contract. So that was the specific reason why we used to have two contracts. Now we have changed that. Now we have a single contract, and both the centers are available across the year. So you have the Rabi season contract which are available, centers which are available in the Kharif season also with a certain premium discount, and you have a Kharif season delivery centers which are available in the Rabi contract also with a certain premium discount. So that is a change that we have incorporated from this year onwards. Moving on to the domestic consumption dynamics. So if we look at maize, so majority of the maize is consumed by the poultry. So around 50% of the demand comes from this sector, followed by probably cattle feed around 15%, starch around 12%. And if we look at the map of India, we can find that there is only one state which is probably producer, not a consumer, right? The rest of the major states are both producer and consumer. So you talk about Andhra, you talk about Telangana, Karnataka, Maharashtra, MP, they are both producer as well as the consumer of the maize. But there are certain states which are major consumers but not producers. So when you talk about Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, so these are the states which are the major consumer. They are not that big producer. They produces maize, but not in that big quantity, right? So as I said, this is the unique thing about maize, that it is produced in number of states and almost across the year, and that is something which ensures the supply throughout the year, right? But what we have seen last year. Now, I think Akshay also showed this chart, but I would also like to talk a bit about, more about this particular thing. So if you look at the table below, what we can see is that the volatility of maize has remained around 10 to 15% generally, right, across the years. And I mean, that could be one of the reason why we don't see a lot of participation on the exchange platform. What we have observed is that because there are various methods in the physical market by which people try to manage that particular price risk. They say, okay, we can manage that 10-15% price volatility. But what is happening in last 2 years is something that has never happened in maize. So if you look at that blue line in the graph above, so you can see that in 17-18 the prices have almost remained constant. They traded somewhere around 1200 to 1400 range. Similarly, in 16-17, the low was around 1250 and the high was around 1650. So not much of a difference. But if you look at last 2 years, in 18-19 and 19-20, the volatility has increased sharply. If you look at the volatility in 18-19, it is around 20%, and it increased to around 36% in 19-20. Now, let me just tell you that some of the most volatile commodities, most liquid commodities which are traded on the exchange platform are not even that much volatile. So if you talk about castor seed, guar seed, these are small commodities, very volatile, and spices also. But in fact, their volatility also ranges somewhere between 20 to 30, 20 to 25%. They are not as volatile as maize. So the dynamic of maize has changed in last 2 years, right? And probably the industry. And if you look at the price movement also, if you look at the chart above, if you look at the price movement, so last year, the prices crashed from around 24 rupees per kg to as low as 12 rupees per kg within a period of say 3 to 4 months, right? And this is something which has probably never happened in the maize trade. And this is why I'm coming to this point that now probably the price risk management has become a very, very important aspect of maize trade, because if we are ensuring our supply but we are not able to ensure our price, then it can create a lot of trouble. And that is something that has happened in last 1 to 2 years, and especially this year. What we have seen, there has been a demand destruction because of the coronavirus. Akshay has talked about a number of 10 to 15%. Probably that number can change, that number can go up also. Now after there has been some recovery, we have seen that we have entered into Shravan Mas, where the consumption again goes down, and we have seen the reduced placement from the poultry industry also. So probably it will take some time to build that demand again. And Akshay talked about that probably it will take 2 to 3 years to again reach to the peak demand of 17-18 or 16-17, right? So so now very should be a priority for the industry, because the kind of movement that we have seen in maize prices in last 2 years, that has been never seen in maize, right? So it has been very flat. It has traded within a range, and last 2 years we have seen that the prices have moved tremendously. The volatility has been very high. If we move to the next slide, this talk about your spot prices versus the MSP. Now what we have seen is that in 17-18 we have seen the prices were generally trading below the MSP. So most of the time during the year, right? Then suddenly in 18-19, what has happened is that the prices for the first time closed the MSP, and for almost 2 years, approximately 2 years, they remain above the MSP. Now this year again, I mean, the prices are trading way below the MSP, and we are looking at a very good harvest in Kharif as of now. And government also has to look into this perspective, because maize is one commodity where the MSP has been announced every year, but there are very few states which are actually implementing it. It is not like wheat or paddy where 40-50% of the total crop is being procured by the government, or there has been a support which has been provided by the government. And because of this drastic fall in the prices, what we have also observed is that this year a lot of farmers from Bihar, they held back, they have hold to their crop. They didn't sell it into the market. The arrivals were also disturbed partially because of the COVID thing. But yeah, another reason was because the prices have crashed like anything, and nobody was interested to sell it at 12 rupees a kg when they have looked at a price of around 24 rupees a kg around 3 months back. And that is very important that even from the farmer's perspective, it becomes very important that there has to be a tool which can be utilized for price risk management. And we have seen in case of maize, at least maize is one commodity. Although it is not very highly liquid, but we have seen a lot of FPOs from Bihar participating on the exchange platform and actually depositing and delivering on the exchange platform. So that is something that the farmers are also learning. Probably the farmer is not coming directly, but as a part of FPO, they're coming and actually utilizing the exchange platform to deliver, to take advantage of the price risk mechanism that is there in the market. And whenever they find a difference between the spot and future market, they utilize the future market to for their benefit. This is again one more interesting thing, right? So we have seen that there is a substitution of maize from other feed grains, right? And last year was a year when we have seen this happening to a very, very large extent. We have seen that even bajra, wheat, barley, we have seen the other feed grains also moving in the same direction. And since there was a substitution, so maize was the first commodity where the prices have gone up. And because there was a substitution, the prices of other feed grains, if we look at this, within this circle, right? So the prices of all other feed grains have also moved along with maize, right? Because maize was the driving factor. And since the prices of maize have gone up, it has, and the user shifted to other commodities. What we have noticed is that the other commodities, the prices of other commodities have also moved up, right? So not only maize, commodities like bajra, which generally trade within a range, they have also broken that range and they have also traded at a very high price. So it was not only about maize. It is the price risk management is not only about maize. It is about the entire feed grains, right? So prices of one feed grain goes up, it pulls up the prices of other feed grain because there is a substitution from one feed grain to the other feed grain, right? So it is not only about the one commodity where the price risk management is needed. It is about the entire basket of commodity which comes under that particular category, which is feed grain, where the risk management is required. And that is the precise reason why the exchange also thought of launching contracts into other feed grains. And we have launched the bajra contract last year because of this precise reason, because there has been a replacement of maize by bajra, and because of which the prices of bajra also started trading at a very high level, right? Although, if you look at the correlation, which is given on the right side corner of the slide, the correlation is not very high. It is around 50% to 55% in different commodities. But still, when the prices goes too high, we have seen, the replacement taking place. Now, this is a very, very important slide that I want to emphasize on. Now, your price of output. When we talk about output, we are talking about egg, we are talking about chicken. So the prices of your output is probably, in case of chicken, it is to some extent you can the prices can move in tandem with the prices of the input material, which is maize. But it generally doesn't happen. Your prices of your output doesn't directly correlate with the price of your input, right? And what we have seen in case of maize, the prices of egg have remained more or less within a range, whereas the prices of corn have increased tremendously, right, in last 1 year. And then when there has been a crash also, the prices crashed for some time, but now they have maintained. But there was a time in between when the prices of your raw material were a significant part of your output, right? And again, I'm talking about risk management, so I think this is something again where the risk management is very, very needed, is very, very essential. Coming on to my last slide, so just to give a gist about it, so not only exchange is trying to educate market participant about the need of price risk management, but the regulatory agencies, whether it is RBI, whether it is SEBI, they are also very concerned about the performance of banks, especially from the in terms of the borrowers in the agriculture sector, how it has been managed. So in fact, the RBI is also trying to tell the lenders, the main bankers, that they should also encourage their large agriculture borrowers to kind of hedge the prices into the, onto the recognized commodity exchanges in the country, right? So even from that front, there has been a push that is coming up. And in fact, SEBI has now made it mandatory for all the listed companies to disclose regarding the commodity price risk. So all the listed entities have to disclose about any price risk that they have in the disclosure in their statement. So that is something, I think, that is a precursor to probably SEBI or probably some other institute tomorrow, or probably in some time, giving a directive that you should hedge a certain percentage of your exposure, because that is something which will allow you to maintain your trade margin. Otherwise, the kind of volatility that the commodities are seeing these days, it become very difficult to do business without protecting your margins, right? So that's all from my side. Thank you, sir, and thanks everyone.
Thank you, Arun. That was again a very good explanation of what role the exchange can play and what people should be doing. I would now request Mr. Amit Saraogi, to share his views. I mean, the interesting role that he has in this conversation is that, as against the two participants that we've talked, who have spoken to us, he's someone who actually gets his hands dirty, so to say. Over to you, Amit. We would like to hear your perspective of what the two previous panelists have spoken on prices and price risk management, and of course the supply chain. But you're the one who faces the good and the bad of that supply chain being efficient or inefficient. So over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Siraj. Good evening, everyone. Listening to Arun and Akshay, we also got to learn a lot of things about corn. And I will not be making any presentation. I'll just speak about my thoughts on maize, because this is a commodity which we have been handling from last 20 years, since Anmol Feed started 20 years back in Bihar, and we have been buying corn from last 20 years, starting from Bihar and then buying all over North India and Eastern India. Before that, before taking you to the entire price value chain, I will like to put certain facts and figures. The consumption of maize has increased at a CAGR of almost 11% in last 5 years. Then global maize production has also reached 1040 million metric ton. Maize yield has increased with CAGR of 5% and 4% in USA and Brazil, respectively, in last 4 years. Maize crop is a big employment generator and provider of cash to 1.5 crore farmers of our country. Maize is a crop which is considered a cash crop, and it is grown by mainly farmers in the state of Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Bihar. They together account for about 2/3 of the total maize production in the country. We all know that in Rabi crop, Bihar is the largest in Rabi crop, and which account for almost 80% of India's 6-7 million tons of annual production of Rabi maize. What we have seen is like the harvest comes in the month of April, and it goes on till the month of July, August. So Bihar is one of the largest supplier of corn to the country. We have seen that our per capita yield is low when it comes to corn crop, and for that we need to grow more hybrid maize. And India ranks 5th in the world in maize hybridization, where Bihar and Tamil Nadu are the two states which have almost reached 100% hybridization in maize. Maize is such a product, is such a commodity which is used in more than 3,500 products, and we have specialized maize like QPM, quality protein maize. This maize has a higher protein concentration than other corn, and it is an excellent raw material for the poultry industry. Maize accounts for 60% of chicken feed by weight, which is almost 50% of the total maize utilization in the country. And then the second biggest consumers are the starch manufacturers. We as a company has been one of the biggest consumer of maize in Eastern India. Last year also we bought almost 125,000 tons of corn for our own production. And we are based in East, but we have all our nine manufacturing plants, starting from Jammu till West Bengal, and then we are operational in Andhra Pradesh also. We started buying from farmers, corn from the farmers in the year 2000. In year 2000, Bihar was the net exporter of corn. Like there were very few industries which were consuming corn. And I saw in slide of NCDX that Bihar is being shown as a production center only. But I will like to put this point that a lot of things have changed in last 5 years. The first plant where we started our first poultry feed manufacturing unit, that is a place called Muzaffarpur. Ours was the first poultry manufacturing unit there in the year 2000, and there we have 3 manufacturing units, and I think Muzaffarpur will be the single largest location in the country where maximum poultry feed production is happening. In Muzaffarpur itself, the installed capacity of all the plants put together will be almost 50,000 tons per month. That is 6 lakh tons per annum when it comes to manufacturing of broiler feed. So this journey, the beginning was started by Anmol Feed 20 years back, and I will like to put my points across for regarding the price of corn. We in year 2000 we used to buy corn at 5 rupees to 5 rupees 50 paisa, and that time soya we used to buy at 7 rupees, and we used to sell feed at 9 to 10 rupees per kg. So and from the year 2012 we have been buying corn from 10 rupees till 12 rupees in the season, that is from April to August in Bihar and Eastern India, bearing the year 2018. The only disruption we saw was in the year 2018, and we feel that this is not a normal thing. It was an exception. The prices were normal till September 2018, but suddenly in 2019, when 2018, this there was fall army worm attack in mainly in Karnataka, Maharashtra. The Karnataka Maharashtra crop were not good in 2018, so we saw the prices shooting up from in MP from 16 rupees 15 rupees in November 2018 to 20 rupees in till February 2019. Then there was then after that there was a big gap. There was no material in the pipeline in 2019 because the 2018 Kharif was very low, so there was no material in the pipeline. So in 2019 April crop, Bihar started from a high because there was no material in the pipeline, and then because that 2018 Kharif shortage, the remaining material continued. So there was a huge buying in Kharif crop of Bihar, and then it continued till 2020 January, and the prices went up to 24 rupees. And it was mainly because the poultry industry was also booming. We had placed more birds, historically more birds in the year 2020 January, February. The placement of birds, the birds were more than 20% compared to the year 2019, which led to oversupply of chicken, and that led to a price crash of chicken. And and there was a huge rumor on social media that if you eat chicken, you will have coronavirus. So adding to that, the prices really crashed, and in most of the states, the cost of production in broiler chicken is 60 to 70 rupees per kg. Last year it was 75, 80 because corn was at 24 rupees, and most of the states farmers sold chicken below 10 rupees and 5 rupees per kg. Then the poultry industry crashed, and hence the prices crashed in corn. And we see that, seeing the last year prices in our country, farmers get biased seeing the previous year's crop prices. So we see this herd mentality that one year, suppose potato price is good, any crop price is good. Second year, we have more 10-20% farmers coming to the same crop, and then the another year prices clash. So we, as an industry, we don't see that we will historically see this prices of 2024 again. That was an exception which has happened for the first time in last 20 years. That too because of fall armyworm infestation in the crop of Maharashtra and Karnataka. There was almost no Kharif crop in these two states, which led to shortage in the pipeline. And regarding the current our broiler industry is operating at 65 to 70% of last year capacity, and we feel that by November this year the industry will come back to what we were at November 2019 volumes. And if there is no other, Kharif sowing is also good, and if there is no fall armyworm infestation, or there is no huge rain at the time of harvest this year, we don't see a major increase in price last year, and like last year. And one more point I will like to make is that last year there was a lot of replacement of other grains like mainly wheat and broken rice in the poultry industry. And that was the first year last year where we saw that wheat price is 2 rupees lower than the maize price. 2 rupees to 3 rupees 50 paisa lower than the maize price. So any wheat or any bajra or any broken, if the prices are lower than minimum by 15% than the corn price, then only it will come for replacement. Because for any kind of feed, energy wise, protein wise, and amino acid profile wise, corn is the best commodity to provide energy to the bird. So one thing. Second thing, what we have seen, there is lot of activity in FPOs and startups in Bihar and UP. There are companies like Aksmala Solution startup. They are supplying inputs to the farmers, and then they collect corn from these farmers, and they are supplying directly to us. We also pay this company within 1 or 2 days of arrival of the material. So we see a good future of corn, And we feel that India is a country of 130 crore people. There is, with lot of chicken consumption is growing. We have to see what is the impact of COVID in the increase in chicken consumption, because we all know today afternoon we all were with a call with the National CI President, Mr. Uday Kotak. He said that this is the new normal. Like we don't expect that in the situation what we are facing, the way this virus is getting more viral, and which has impacted mother industries. He said that mother industries, hospitality, energy, like that. He has a so it has impacted those industry, and it has definitely impacted the consumption of chicken also. But we see that by November, December, if we are able to control this virus, and if we are able to get a vaccine by November, December, we see that we will get last year's volume. And one more thing, that fish feed business is growing in India, and corn is also being used in fish feed. Uh, Down 3 to 5 years from now, we see that there will be a lot of consumption of maize will go for a fish feed also. And this is what I have to say. And I have bought corn in last 20 years, lowest from 3 rupees 50 paisa till 24 years, 24 rupees last year. And most of the time I have bought corn from 11 to 13 rupees range. And we expect that in future also the right price of corn is between 11 to 12 to 15 rupees for the farmer. And this is what we expect. And we need to grow the productivity of corn to the farmer, because we are even 30% lower than the world average when it comes to yield. And we see a good demand also, because feed industry is supposed to grow with a CAGR of 9% per annum for next 4-5 years to come. So this is what I have to say. Over to you, Siraj.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Amit. That was a very good perspective of the industry. I see a lot of questions coming up, and Rolly, I'll let you roll the questions. But more importantly, I think there are some common sort of questions or concerns that are coming up. One is, of course, from a COVID impact on demand, specifically the sectors that are using it, using corn really. And of course, the challenge to maintain price stability, or at least ensure a price volatility that is manageable, because in corn we've seen that go really out of control. And while we address these questions, and Rolly, you will have to share them with the participants. And I would basically, one common question I would have for all of you is really the recommendations you would want to make for the government, for the industry, for the farmers, and for the supply chain managers dealing with corn. For government, in terms of how do they manage this desire to increase corn crop across certain areas of the country, and in this environment where there's a demand destruction, as well as what alternate usage of corn, or what areas can corn be brought into. We've seen a lot of expansion in the corn milling space, and significant similarly for the industry in terms of poultry as well as the others, which is textile, starch, and a few others like corn and food, of course. And for farmers, because we have on one hand wanting them to produce more corn, but at the same time not all of them are having happy experiences with that effort. And supply chain, because corn, unlike a lot of other crops, cereals, does extreme care and caution in terms of its handling and transportation, because that causes an impact on the crop and the value realization for the farmers. So those are some of the areas that I would want you all to talk about. But Roli, first you can ask the questions participants have raised. Hello.
Yeah, sir.
Hi.
Yeah, so if the panelists can please switch on their videos, it becomes a little more interactive to see the panelists on screen. So one question that I have, there is no
Yeah,
specific.
you don't need to come, but ask him to courier it if he can. No, you take this piece back from him.
So one question that's there is not for any specific panelist, anybody who wants to take it. The question is from Mr. Vishnu Kantar, who says that is there any data on the aflatoxin levels? Because last year there was a lot of increase in the levels in also anyone who would want to answer that question.
Yeah. This is all aflatoxin content is all related to rains at the time of harvest. When the years when the crop is standing in the field and we get rains in month of late March or April, so that year we face aflatoxin problems. Fortunately, this year we have not seen much aflatoxin problems. The corn, the quality of corn which is coming is generally good this year.
Any other panelists would have any thoughts on that? Okay, there's another question, which is there any scope of changing the farmer practices so that we can improve the quality of corn that we produce in the country?
Yeah, we need to teach farmer how to harvest the crop properly, how to store the crop properly, use the uses of dryers, proper storage. So by whenever we have seen quality problem coming in corn, it is mainly due to rains at the time of harvest or improper storage after harvest of the crop. We get a fungus problem, aflatoxin problem, mainly due to moisture.
Another question that is there is maybe Arun, you would want to answer this. Overall price in Bihar in the next 3 to 6 months. Any views on that?
Rolly, I may not be able to talk about exactly how the prices would look in going ahead because of the as an exchange person. Probably that won't be a right thing for me to talk about. Probably the other panelists may take up this question and yeah,
Sure.
yeah, sure. Thank you.
Akshay, any views on that? Overall price in Bihar next 3 to 6 months.
Okay, I think I kind of mentioned that, and that's a point that Mr. Amit also stressed in his presentation, that overall we do not see a big spike this year. The reason for that is A, you have a demand destruction, the supply is relatively better. B, the import quota has already been released by the government. So at any time you can import Black Sea corn, which would be around 17.5 rupees a kg in South. So in that sense, today the prices are 15.5. So you can say the range is fairly narrow. The prices should remain in this range, because if the prices correct too much in Bihar, then we see an increase in export demand from Bangladesh, Nepal. So I think prices are fairly in a range. We do not expect a wild move this year compared to last.
Okay. There's another question which says Mr. Akshay had mentioned that a drop in feed demand is anticipated of 10 to 15%. We had heard in few weeks back that feed demand is down by 50%. So views of the other panelists and also yours, Akshay, on this reflection on the demand of for feed basically.
Yeah, I think I saw the question. Mr. Amit can take this question very well because he
Yeah.
is actually looking at feed demand more closely. So I think over to you, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. See, our feed demand in April was around 50% of the last year April's demand. Now we are almost at 65 to 70% of last year July's feed demand. But we are seeing a series of lockdowns in various states. Almost 1/4 of India is under lockdown as of now. Bihar is under lockdown. So if all these things does not impact much, we feel that by this year November to December, our feed demand will be almost 95% of the last year November December demand. But it will all depend on how this virus behaves and how our state government behaves in terms of lockdowns and disruptions in supply chain, etc.
I think just to answer the question from Jayan particularly, as Mr. Amit said, there were months like March and April where the demand would have gone even below 50% on a monthly basis. But we have seen a good pickup in demand gradually. However, like Mr. Amit said, we are seeing a second phase of lockdown in states such as Bihar, Karnataka, and all. It needs to be seen how things behave going forward. But unless there is a big demand destruction, I think overall we should end the year not as extreme as 50%, which was rightly the 2 months, perhaps March and April.
Sure. There's another question on price which says, what is the FOB price in Black Sea? Uh, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question, what is the FOB price in Black Sea?
I think Akshay will be able to answer this question.
I think the FOB price in Ukraine currently or Black Sea is around 160, 165 to 170 range. That is for let's say an O&D shipment. Uh, Fairly, I would say 165 should be a fair estimate as of today. If somebody wants to take a forward pricing, let's say someone who can import if need be and wants to price something forward, I think 165 should be a safe range. FOB Ukraine.
Any more questions from the participants? Please post in the chat box. I have one last question which says the views of the panelists on GM corn. So, what are your views? Can we look at accepting GM corn, and what do you think is the way forward?
Yeah. As industry, we have been demanding GM corn and GM soya both for India. So if we get GM corn, GM soya, our productivity will increase. These crops are less disease resistant, and 90% of the world is using GM corn and soya. So as industry, we also feel that GM corn and soya should be allowed in India. And GM oil is being allowed, but GM soya meal, GM palm oil is allowed in India, but the meal is not allowed. So if the oil is allowed, which goes directly to the human consumption, the GM meal and GM maize, even the seed should be allowed in our country.
Sure. And one more question that is added here is What do you think is the upcoming crop like? There are survey reports which say it's about 45 million tons. What is your estimation of the crop that will come, like approximately the correct figures?
This Arun will be able to answer. NCDX.
Mr. Yadav?
So I may not be able to give an exact estimate about the crop, but as of now, the crop is looking good. I mean, as it has been covered by other panelists also that this year the sowing has been better. One reason being the monsoon has been early this year across the country, and that is one reason why the production is going to be on a higher side. Now, how much is? I mean, it would be not appropriate for me to give an answer to the to put a number to it, but yeah, I think as of now the things are looking good.
Yeah, and the key sectors where you see consumption growing or most of it the crop going is the next question.
Yeah, I think Mr. Amit can answer this. I think, but I feel that feed will continue to remain the major, driver for maize as of now, major consumer for maize. But I think further, Mr. Amit can, add on to that particular question. I think his views are more valuable for this question.
What I said, it will all depend on how the poultry industry recovers. Like we have come up to 65-70% of last year production in July production, and if we are able to reach 90-95% in the by October November, it will be like normal like last year. And one good thing what we have seen this year, there was no disruption in dairy industry, cattle feed industry. There was a disruption in chicken industry, but there was no disruption in dairy industry. There was no disruption in fish industry. So we see that lot of corn is going in cattle feed industry, and there is good demand for compounded cattle feed. There is a great awareness to the farmers. This year milk prices are generally remunerative to the farmers, and we are not carrying too much stocks also. So we feel that a lot of consumption will come from cattle feed, and going forward 5 years from now we see a great chunk of demand coming from fish feed, which has a very low base, but it is growing at CAGR of 30 to 40% per annum.
One question that's coming in all our seminars is any impact of the agri reforms that you see on this particular commodity on corn with the marketing reforms and everything in place. How do you see the dimensions changing? Any reflection on that?
Yeah, I told you we have seen that a lot of online activities happening in corn. There are websites which are connecting farmers and companies like us to sell their corn. Then there are aggregators like there is an aggregator called Deha, then one aggregator called Aksamala Solutions. They have their 500-600 shops in different rural areas. So they aggregate crops from the farmers and they supply to us, and we feel that these guys are doing a good job. The quality of corn they are supplying is better than what normally the traders are supplying in the market. They are giving us better quality and better price both. So we see a lot of activity like any other industry. We see that e-commerce is happening in consumer electronics, apparels. Like consumers are sitting at home and buying. So slowly we are seeing that lot of farmers are contacting. We have a toll-free number in our company, and we see lot of inquiries from farmers regarding how they can sell their corn, wheat directly to us. And since now there is no APMC, there is like farmer is at ease to sell their product directly to the companies. I think a lot of chunk will move directly between companies or farmers and then the intermediaries. Right now, the trade is being dominated by intermediaries. But we will see, especially in production centers, like places in Bihar, which is near the production center, places in Karnataka, like locally, the farmers will try to supply to the local feed companies, and we see a great. It's increasing at a great speed in the coming years. That is the future, I believe.
Yeah. So one last question before I hand over to Mr. Chaudhary. The question says, with maize prices trading at historic lows, how do you see government MSP interventions in Kharif season? Your take, Mr. Arun and Mr. Akshay Yadav.
So I think as of now, what we have seen is that the government MSP, frankly, doesn't provide any kind of support, because maize is not a commodity where the government is very active, right? It is not like paddy where they're procuring around 50%, or even not like wheat where they're procuring around 40%. It does provide a price at which the farmer can look at, but actually the benefit could be only taken when they are able to sell at that price. So except I think one or two states which are to some extent active in buying maize from farmer at MSP, I don't see this other states getting into it and they start procuring maize at MSP. Now, one more point I would like to introduce here is that we have discussed a lot of time that how can we increase the production, and that is one question Mr. Siraj sir has also asked, right? So I think one and Mr. Amit has said they are also looking at if the government can allow introducing GM crop, right? But what can we do with the existing crop? How can we incentivize our farmers to produce more? Now, one way is what we have done in wheat and paddy, where we procure a lot of, the government announces MSP, procure around 50% of the total production at MSP, but that largely disrupt the supply chain, right? That is not good for the market, because when that happens, the market participants are not able to freely trade, right? And that is what we are seeing in wheat and other commodities where the government is very, very active, right? So there are other ways also, right? In case of MP, the government has introduced a mechanism where they are able to give the difference of MSP and the market price to the farmers, right, which is known as Bhavantar scheme. So that is something, because the government's role is basically to ensure fair income to the farmer, right, rather than to ensure it is not necessary that they need to procure. Now this is one point where the future platform, or for that matter the exchanges, can come into place. The commodity exchanges can play a very large role, right? So government has now, SEBI has allowed a options contract on goods, right? So options contract is nothing. It is something where a buyer can, the buyer of the option contract has a right to give a particular thing to a seller if he feels that it is a right but not an obligation, right? So for example, if the government we have seen subsidize the premium for the weather insurance, so farmers can take a weather insurance and government subsidize the premium. Now in the same way, what the government can do, they can probably subsidize the premium of that, the put option, wherein a farmer buys a put option or a FPO buys a put option, and the government subsidizes the premium. Now what will happen in that particular case? If the price goes up, the farmer can sell the produce in the market and get a better price, and he will only lose the premium, which anyways will be compensated by the government to some extent. Or if the prices goes down, he can exercise his right to supply, right? And he can utilize the futures platform to deliver that stock, or the options platform rather, to deliver that stock. Now this is something which is very unique. It is like it is like a crop insurance. You have a crop insurance. Now it is the time that we can talk about price insurance, because the moment you are able to provide that to the farmers, ultimately it is the farmer who has to produce the commodity, and he will produce only when he will get the right price. And I think this is a mechanism where you can give him a right price without actually interrupting the supply chain, without actually buying and holding a lot of stock, and paying the carry and disrupting the actual supply chain. So I think my point is that this is one way by which the government can actually intervene in the market. They can provide the right price to the farmers without actually interfering the buying side of the market.
Sir, so the audience questions are more or less over to you, Mr. Chaudhary.
That was a wonderful conversation, and it provided some very useful insights for all of us. I think, this was like putting it all together, and all of you were the very, what I would say, the apt participants for a panel discussion like this, which kind of provided a 360-degree view on this whole supply chain. And I think it's very important that such conversations are kept on, because I mean, there are a large number of participants in this panel discussion who are attending it. But I'm sure this whole perspective of what the corn, how the corn crop has evolved, how the prices have to be managed, and how the supply and usage has to be managed. So it is, as I said in the beginning, I mean, what is unique about this crop is that it has multiple usage, and its price actually it's also a commodity which can be replaced by something else. So the price becomes an important consideration in how it is used, and if it is used, if not rightly priced. And I think there is a role to play for the government, because we want to keep increasing the availability of corn. But at the same time, as we know, relative to other corn crops, our corn productivity is not very good relative to the world. And there is an opportunity to improve that through investment in seed technology. Then, of course, the supply chain. I mean, corn, the good news is that corn is widely produced in the country, but, and there is a Rabi and the Kharif. It's both the season crop, but how it moves and how efficiently it is stored has a bearing on its the pricing that it attracts, and at the same time, the usage. And of course, there has always been this question mark on whether one should allow the imports or exports of corn, and that will different parts of the industry will sort of bat for that differently. But that's expected, and that's common to a number of other commodities also. And I think one area that I have kind of sort of felt that Indian corn could be contributing more to, and that is true for a lot of other commodities. I mean, Indian corn is more expensive relative to the world at this point of time. I mean, not at this necessarily point of time, but usually when we talk about the MSP and the rest of the places. The next level of evolution has to be about creating products and exporting products rather than trying to compete by exporting grain itself. And in this region, India does have a market, whether it's poultry products or it's food ingredients. I mean, those are the areas that probably need to be attended to, or we try and become more competitive and encourage exports of, because that allows for value addition in the country as well as a better realization for the crop. And that is an opportunity that an industry can explore. So with that, thank you everyone for being on this, participating in this seminar, if I may call that, or webinar as it is now. And all the participants for bringing so much information, insights, and value to this discussion. It was a pleasure listening to all of you. Though I'm not a corn industry guy, but I mean, I've sort of touched it from its peripheries in different roles in my career. But it was great to get a complete picture, and thank you very much. Thoroughly enjoyed being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Before question,
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
thank our partners, NCTV and Sangeena, for supporting this seminar series. Thank you to our esteemed panel for their insights and Mr. Chaudhary for steering this very interesting discussion today. Also, thank you, participants, who found the session engaging and insightful. A quick feedback form has been shared with you on the chat box. Please do drop in your feedback. Also, join us for our upcoming session on coffee and soya bean. Thank you once again.
I have one request, Roli and Rituja, if you could circulate the presentations, if the panelists are okay to share them, that'll be good sort of data and information to sort of look back on for the participants.
Sure, we'll check and we'll circulate the presentations if that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.